What's up there, people? Hunter Spoke Riders here, and I thought I'd jump on here real quick and explain to you what you're about to watch. Now, this video is going to be a little bit all over the place, but it's mainly about how to remove the factory fender flares, at least in the rear of a two-door Tahoe, because I just been struggling with this for the last 2.5 hours. I wasn't even going to make a video about it at first. I thought it was going to be something easy, but boy, was I wrong. Halfway through it, I told myself, I'm going to make a video about this if I can successfully get this off. This is not going to be, I'm going to show you how to do it, but I'm not going to be doing it while I'm showing you. I'm just going to show you what I went through to get it done. With my instructions, you should be able to get it off and save a lot of time and not have to struggle like I did. So, also, I'd like to thank everybody that's following along with this project of the two-door Tahoe build. If you're following along, thanks a lot. And I'm working on it slowly but surely. It's a slow grind. Little by little, I try to chip away at it every day. But today's Saturday, and I just did something kind of the spur of the moment. I'm in the middle of doing brakes, the rear brake job, and painting the wheel wells. But let me explain to you why I ended up having to pause on that and remove this fender flare. I just wanted to jump on here real quick and let you guys know what's going on. And man, it was a struggle. But, oh yeah, and I cut my thumb open trying to do it. So, all right, people, here we go. Let me explain to you what I had to go through. That's why it's all blew apart like this. Before I even start this and showing you details of what's going on, first let me show you what not to do. When I first got my hands on this Tahoe, probably like a month into it, I tried to take this fender flare off. I absolutely tried to take this fender flare off the wrong way. There was these bolts right here. Let me show you the bolts. They're little bolts that run. I'll go in more detail about these bolts. But there's little bolts that runs all on the back of them. I painted, with the rim on and tire still on, and a little small tools, I painstakingly took each one of them out and thought I could just pop this off. Naively, I thought I could pop it off. I couldn't figure out why it was still hooked on there, and I started pulling and tugging on it, and I end up really messing this flare up. That's why this flare, as you see, does not fit flush. There's like a pinky worth of gap. There's like a pinky worth of gap in there, all on that flare, because it's tore right here. I'm gonna have to buy a new flare for this one. This was my mistake, and I've come to find out these things are not as cheap as I thought they were. Aftermarket, yes, but the factory fender flares are not cheap. So anybody doing this, hopefully this video will help you out. Do not do what I did and tear this up and have to buy a new one. So, as you know, I'm in the middle of a brake job. I started on the other side. I got all my parts in. I'll get into that later. So I degreased everything, cleaned everything, and I was just about to start sanding on the other side, but let me show you what paused me. This is why you see my amps out, but I'll talk about that here in a second. Now, this is what it looks like without the factory fender flare. You take it off, you're gonna have these holes right here. I was so naive at thinking that I could just pull them little bolts at the bottom, pop it off, and everything would be good. Then sometimes I can use them, sometimes I couldn't. I just wanted to see what it was like without them. I'm definitely putting them back on because I'm not going through the hassle of welding all these holes up. Now, there it is right there. Let me show you what's really holding these on. Now, as I said earlier, there are 8 screws that go along the bottom of it, all right here, okay? These are the 8 screws right here. The size of socket you're gonna need to get these off is a 7mm. You're gonna need a 7mm socket or a wrench, but if you have a socket, it'd be a lot easier. 7mm, that's what gets them 8 screws out of there. Now, on top of the 8 screws, there's 8 nuts that hold these on too. Let me flip this over and show you what I'm talking about. You see that right there? 8 of those. Let me take one off and really show you. And of course I dropped it. Here we go. Now, that's what these things are right here. I don't know what the official name for them are. It's almost like a little hat. You would think they wouldn't hold, but man, these things hold. As you see from the other side, these things will hold that Fender flares on for dear life. So, you got 8 of those all along the edge. Now, I know you're saying there's 2 holes missing. They're up underneath it. But let me show you what you got to go through to get to them 8 holes. Oh yeah, these are 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter right there, 10 millimeter socket. You're going to need a socket. And you're going to need an extension. I use this, these are the tools I use to do this whole job. The most important tools is the different length of extensions. You're going to need a screwdriver, some plastic pry bars. You're definitely going to need that. Do not use metal ones if you plan on saving this stuff and reusing it. And you're definitely going to need some kind of a small flashlight. If you got a flashlight smaller than that, but brighter, you're definitely going to need that. And you're definitely going to need that swivel socket extension. That's what I use, and I suggest you do the same. Now, how this all started, like I said earlier, I'm at the stage now where I need to start sanding all this stuff and getting it ready for paint. When I did a little inspection, I initially said, there's a rubber plug. I'll pull that out later. But there is also a plug right here. So I figure, I better pull that plug up. I better not paint, just paint over there. And I'm sure glad I did. Because if you just scuff and paint over your plugs or put any kind of wheel well coating or anything over these plugs, you're going to have one hell of a, once it all dries, you're going to have one hell of a time getting that plug out of there with some kind of coating over it. So definitely pull your plugs out before you do any kind of wheel well treatment. Just a suggestion. But going back to it, it started with these 3 plugs right here, okay? These 3 plugs right here had this in it. This is the plug. This is the plug right here, okay? Now I'm going to scuff these down and paint these separately now. And that's what I use the plastic. I think this is like galvanized or something. But there are 3 of them. Those are the 3 right there. I used plastic pry bar to get them off of there. And it was not easy. Hold on. I did use these 2, but this was the main one I used also. I forgot to show that earlier because it was in a different position. These come in a kit at Harbor Freight. I definitely buy them. Definitely well worth the money. But this one I used to get up in here, like it's perfect. You just catch it and wedge it free. That's why I used to get these 3. Okay. Those are the 3 plugs. Now, there are also 2 more plugs that are different. They're just regular plastic plugs. They're a little bit easier to take off. These plugs right here, you're going to have to take off these 2 plugs. There's actually 4 of them total. But there's 1 big one and 1 little one. Okay? Take them off the same way. Let me show you where those 2 plugs are at. Those 2 plugs are right here. There's one right there and one right there. Okay? That's the big one. That's the little one. Now you have to come in here, right, with a 10 millimeter, an extension, and get that little nut out of there. That's the first one. That's the second one. Now the third one is not there. I'll get to that in a second. But them are the three. You can actually see the hole right there. Those are the three in the middle. But this one here, there's a bolt for the fender flare. And let me show you what I went through to get that. Okay, this is just loosely sitting on here, but you get the idea. This is the back panel of a 2-door Tahoe. Now, of course, my ashtray is broke, but you pull the ashtray out, all right? You pop that ashtray out of there. And we pop that ashtray out of there, there's a Phillips screw. You pull that out. That's a Phillips screw right there. Once you pull that one Phillips screw out, you pop this panel off, okay? Now, you see that? Let me see if I can get in there to really show you. You see that in there? In there, you put your extension and your socket, your 10 millimeter, and that's the other screw. That's the other nut you gotta get off right there. Now, I did this before I pulled this whole panel off, because I thought, okay, that's not too bad. But you still, whether you pull this panel off or not, I didn't pull it all the way off. You're still going to have to take this off regardless. So, pull that out. Get that nut right there. Oh, it's getting fun. It's getting real fun now, ain't it? Oh, yeah. Okay, now I'm underneath the vehicle in the back. Let me explain. There's the tailpipe. Now you see them are the other two plugs I was talking about earlier. The big plug and the little plug. And same thing. That's how you see the hole. Stick your socket in there. You get that one, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter. Easy enough, huh? Now you're down to the last bolt. This is where the fun really begins. Okay, now for me, this one right here was the final bolt. This was the only thing holding this fender flare on for me at this point. Now, if you come down here, there's really no way to get to that. I believe somebody in the past tried to with this, but I don't know what they were thinking. That's not gonna work. I don't know what they were tripping on that one. They just basically put a hole there for no reason. I might end up trying to, if I don't see no other reason for that hole, I'm gonna do some more homework. I'm gonna end up probably welding that up. Okay. Let me show you what I had to go through to get to that last little bolt to get this all off. Now check this out. You see, let me open this door. You see this panel is off of here. It's all like loose. This panel's hanging. And I had to take my amp down because unfortunately my amp is hooked to this panel. In the future, I will be moving this amp. I don't really like that location anymore. So, yeah, that'll get fixed. But first, I had to take this panel off. I should have unplugged it, but it's not that serious. I had to pull that panel down. Then, I had to take this panel off. These are all interlinked with each other. You see right here? I had to take this one, this panel here, pretty much all the way off, just to pop all this off. Now, this panel here was on there for dear life, but I got this panel off, and all it is, hold it on from the bottom, which is, mine's kind of bent up, I gotta fix it. If you pull on this panel, if you pull up on it, and as you're pulling up, just pull out as hard as you can, but you gotta pull up first, up and out. And it's all snapped in there with stuff like this. There's no screws really holding this on. You just gotta pull up and out. Now, I was able to pull this back far enough to get the good old 10 millimeter and the ratchet I got the 10mm and the ratchet. You see that little, see this little triangle? That's the triangle you're gonna go through right there. Then, you see the hole? There it is. Right there. 10mm, unscrew it. And that's everything it took to get that one fender flare off. Now, this all started, once again, with pulling that plugs. Once I pulled the plugs, I figured out, hey, that's how the fender flare comes off. Once I got to a certain point, there's two bolts. Mainly this bolt, or this nut, and that nut right there. Them are the two nuts that you got to get to that's going to make you take panels off on the inside. This one's not so bad because you just got to take the top panel off with the ashtray. But I got to the point where I wasn't going to put all this back together for one bolt. I had to get that bolt out. So there you have it, people. Now that I got all that fiasco done, I've discovered some more work for myself. So now I gotta go through figuring out really why they put that hole there and why they put that hole there, figuring that fiasco out. And I will be, if there's no real reason. Matter of fact, you guys comment below. Do you guys have that hole right there and there in your back wheel well? Check it out if you got a two-door or any kind of OBS Tahoe. But if not, I will be welding them holes up and doing some metal work. And then I will get to sanding and painting all this. But I will get back to the brakes. So be on the lookout. This is a long, seems like never-ending project, this two-door Tahoe. But there you have it, people. I just wanted to show you this video and let you know all the, I don't know who designed this. Oh, buddy. It's 1999. I don't know who designed it like this. I guess they designed it so it was definitely not going to fall off. But, man, I'd have a few words to talk to that design team. But anyway, just out here messing around on Saturday, man. Continuing on with the two-door OBS Tahoe. All right, people. I guess I should put all this back together. But I'm going to leave it apart until I'm done with everything. And I'll put it back together at the end because I can only imagine the stuff I got to go through on that side. All right, people. Hunchbuck Riders, signing out.